Okay, so I'm trying something new. Ah! That's not my face. My eyes are up here. So instead of doing a blog this week, I thought it'd be kind of cool to try a video blog, also known as a vlog. Since I like video and audio and trying to make stuff look cool, and it helps in the reflective process as well. So it's week 10 at school, and there is a kind of a bizarre day today. It's the day before Halloween. Our school's birthday is Halloween. Each year we have a big Halloween costume contest. It's kind of a big deal at the school. But at the same time, we were having tornado watches on and off all throughout the day. And there was lots of flooding. About 30 minutes into the first period class, we hear the alarm and we had to go out in the hall and sit away from the windows for about 30 minutes. Then we went back in because the tornado watch was let up. And then 15 minutes later, we went back out for about an hour. And then we went back to second period. And then about 30 minutes into second period, we found out that the students were going to have to end up going home. So all this was happening when kids were dressed up as a unicorn and as fat sumo wrestlers. Apparently the new thing is finding a bunch of unrelated items to become your costume. Last year we had a stormtrooper in a box. This year we had a girl that was dressed up as Hole Punch Jim from The Office, but there was a golden unicorn coming out of her stomach. I also saw a hot dog with a sailor hat and a sword. So I think that's the new thing. We weren't actually able to do the Halloween contest, but it will be rescheduled. And kids went home like at noon. And I got a bunch of free food because they had extras at the cafeteria because nobody got food today. So that was cool. My pre-algebra class yesterday was one of those days where you do an assignment that you think is going to take about 20 minutes, but then it kind of stretches into like an hour and a half and you're not really sure why. They came in, they had some time to work on their assignment from the previous lesson, and that was about 15 minutes. Usually they do it for homework, but I gave them time in class. And then we had some discussion problems, and I try to do a lot more of an inquiry-based class where students go up and they share their thinking and students ask questions, and afterwards I'm like, okay, did anybody make a mistake that they kind of caught after we went over it? It's usually really valuable and really rich, but I've been noticing sometimes I'm letting, I'll let one, it seems like everybody gets it, and I'll ask, okay, did anybody disagree, or did anybody do it differently? And several kids will want to share their different ways, and sometimes they didn't even do it differently. I think they just kind of want to go up and share their thinking, which is cool. I'm finding that I'm letting it drag out longer than it needs to, and it's losing its benefit, and still trying to give as many people a voice as possible, but not spending 15 minutes on a problem that everyone knows how to do, and just because they want to share their thinking. We started into subtracting integers, and I started with a lesson on it was a Threeact Lesson, and I've written a blog post about Threeact Lessons. They're kind of popularized by Dan Meyer. Threeact is like you have your exposition, you have your conflict, and you have your resolution. And then mathematically, you present some kind of thing that builds up in anticipation of questions. Your climax is you're working through and trying to understand how to solve the problem. And your resolution is kind of finding the solution. The first act, it wasn't one of his official ones that Dan Meyer has done, but it was one where I showed a video of a thermometer going from one temperature down to another that was time-lapsed, and the general idea was like, oh, well, you're hoping they come to the question of how much did the temperature change? And so you show the video and you say, okay, what questions do you have? And the kids were like, why are we watching this? Because I haven't done this with this group yet. Where was this? Are we talking about Celsius or Fahrenheit? Which led to a pretty good conversation. The question of well, how much did the temperature change? Why did it change so fast? Was it on a time lapse? Really more real life kind of questions that you're asking that pertain to mathematics. And the general idea was it went from a positive number all the way down below 0, and that they were going to have to find the difference, which you subtract a negative, which ends up being a positive. Which they got to that. It took like 20 minutes for them to get through, but I think it was more me just kind of dragging it out longer than I needed to, and the students debriefed afterwards saying that they felt that it kind of took a long time, and there wasn't much of a kind of resolution to the end of it. I guess Act 3 wasn't as pronounced as it should have been. So we went into negative integers. We took some notes. The goal was to do an actual activity lesson afterwards, where they were working with more problems, but we didn't get to it. And I kind of worried that we would have fallen behind, but being that none of my classes really met today for more than 10-15 minutes, it was okay, I guess. I'm probably not going to do the thermometer thing for the next group, or if I do, I'll probably just try to abbreviate it a lot more than I did. As far as my 6th grade math class, they're finishing up their second Math in My Own Words math journals, reflections, which I'm doing in the form of a blog, which I've kind of written about. My pre-algebra students have been doing a little bit more. So my 6th graders, the general idea is they have a blog, they write their reflection on any one of the lessons that we've done so far. Each lesson I give them a specific prompt to kind of help them know what to write about, asking more in-depth conceptual questions instead of how to just solve it. And they pick the one they want to do. So they write the blog, and then they come in the next day and they do a self-assessment. I put something up on the board that says what they need to do. They need to make sure that they answered all the questions. They need to say why they deserve an A, B, C, or D, and using the rubric to help explain why they deserve each one instead of I tried really hard, since trying hard isn't really on the rubric. And then they do a peer assessment as well with the person next to them. They read their peer's blog and then say what they did really well and what they could do to possibly improve. And I do all this on Google Classroom, the question feature, where I say post your link up. They post their link up, and then they reply to their own link with their self-reflection, and then they go to their peer and then click reply on their peer's link as for their peer assessment. Pre-algebra students, when they went through that process, had really high quality reflections, much better than last year's, which were just in Google Slides, and there was no peer self-assessments. So we'll see how the 6th graders do come Monday when their final drafts are due. My lovely wife Sara is a pediatric resident in her 2nd year. So she's on 2 weeks of nights, trying to find ways to keep myself occupied and busy as she leaves about 20-30 minutes after I get home to go in. It's been giving me a chance to meet up with some people that I don't normally get a chance to meet with, which is cool, and did a pumpkin carving party. Also, I spent about 5 hours the other day creating a Simpsons impersonation video.
I'm a superstar at the Cracker Factory.
To add to my voiceover repertoire, because I like to sometimes apply for jobs that have cartoon animations, but I didn't have any like polished work of any kind of cartoon voiceovers I've done, and I really like The Simpsons. So if you're into The Simpsons or funny voices, check that out, and perhaps you'll like it. Thank you for just listening as I kind of think out loud and reflect. If you have any feedback for me, let me know. Thanks for watching.